Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie, and good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. So, I hope you're all well. I'm in Spain, as you know, today. It's a lovely day. It's 21 degrees, few clouds, but nothing spectacular. Lovely day. Now, I know if you're in the UK, are you suffering from Storm Bert? You've got terrible snow there, haven't you? And stuff like that, from what I can gather. Let me just have a look. Let me just show anybody who doesn't know what the weather is like in the UK at the moment, or in parts of it anyway. And then I was talking to somebody on email this morning who's in Australia, and they were saying that in Australia they're having a heat wave. So let me, anyway, wherever you are, let me know what your weather's like. Seems like, we've got some, because we have viewers, don't we, part of this community all over the world. Literally, it seems like, depending on how lucky you are, where you are, what your weather's like. Of course, we had bad weather in Spain a few weeks ago, but at the moment the weather's okay. So anyway, here are some of the keyed in Storm Burr into the X platform, the Twitter, as was Twitter, and some of the videos that are coming up. You can see there's a lot of snow, isn't there? Oh, a thaw combined with Storm Bert, apparently here. That reminds me of what happened in Spain. So I hope you're all okay. Everyone's laughing at the Sesame Street type thing because it's called Storm Bert. Yeah. So I hope you've all got your provisions in, get your shopping in if you have to go out. Be careful. This is supposed to be Ireland this morning. Gosh. Oh yeah, this is what I wanted to show you.
Was upgraded. Well, just overnight, the weather warning in place here in Yorkshire was upgraded from yellow to amber. So we'll get rain, snow, and sleet. And just having a look here, Ilkley is picturesque at the best of times, but you can start seeing the snow falling, and that comes with not just scenes like these, but also.
I mean, it is so very pretty. It is so. It's only ever snowed once in Spain since I've been here. And, you can imagine all the Spanish were out rolling in the snow, making snowballs. When it's unusual, when it doesn't happen very often, people like it. And of course, if you don't have to go anywhere in it. And it's not the snow that's a problem, is it? It's the afterwards, like the ice and the sleet, etc., and slushy snow, and that is the worst bit. The actual thing, when it's snowing, it's normally not too bad, but of course it's dangerous because sometimes the pavements look okay if they're covered in snow, but you don't know what's underneath, do you? And the roads, of course, there'll be lots of accidents.
Disruption to rail and road travel already. We've had TransPennine Express tell people using that rail network, across the north of England, to be careful and that there will be disruption to their journeys. We also understand that at Leeds Bradford Airport, there will also be disruption, while the number of road agencies are telling people not to drive unless it's absolutely essential. And I could tell you on the way up into Ilkley, it was a difficult road, and you could see people whose wheels are spinning, who are trying to get up hill roads and trying to go up inclines and already struggling with this snow. The weather warning here is in place until 12 noon. And it's already bringing with it some of the disruption you can expect, but also some of the scenes of snow, some of the issues you mentioned. Storm Bert is being called a multi-hazard event. It's a blend of weather systems, and just
a multi-hazard event, a blend of weather systems
in one place. We're seeing those because we're seeing a bit of rain, we're seeing a bit of sleet, and we're seeing that snow as well.
Yeah, so be careful anyway. If you're any way involved with Storm Bert or any extremes of weather, be careful. Okay, I'm going to say hello to everybody now before I start giving you an update, because the main purpose of this video is to give you an update on the Sara Sharf trial. Sarah's this little girl. Let's have a closer look at her. 10 years old, just 10 years old, abused for at least 2 years by her father. Her own father, Urfan Sharif, this absolute twonk. This is Urfan. Honestly, if anybody ever looks evil, Urfan does. You know, what a horrible, horrible man. Anyway, he's in court for her murder. Although it's thought, I don't know about the murder because he's in court anyway with the stepmother Baynash, who's in the middle, and the uncle, Irfan's brother Faisal. They all lived in the same house, and they've all been charged with the same thing. Either murder itself or neglect. Not drawing I can't remember the actual way the charges are called. But basically murder and, like neglect, if you like, or not allowing a child's death. That's it, something like that, allowing the death of a child. So it's been quite a long trial so far. It's been quite a few weeks. We've been following it. Irfan, the father, started off saying he did it when he actually, because what these people did, just to remind people who maybe don't know, when Sarah died, she just succumbed to, I think, 2 years of abuse. I think just a little body, a little spirit just gave up. She'd been abused for so long because they've not been able to establish a cause of death for Sarah. I think it's just an accumulation of injuries over all that time. And they then fled, didn't they, to Pakistan with the other children, because there's 5 more children in that house. They fled to Pakistan. And then finally, the 3 of them came back. Oh, that's right. Irfan, the father, phoned the police while he was in Pakistan, told them where Sarah's body was. He'd left the keys under the mat. Big man, isn't he? Big. That's very generous of him. Anyway, left the keys under the mat so the police could go in and recover Sarah's body, which was upstairs in her little pajamas in a bunk bed. And it's thought, Sarah was kept in nappies, soiled nappies. It's thought that the uncle Faisal jet washed her body before they redressed her in those pajamas. I mean, this is just, I don't know when I've ever heard a case that's worse than this, to be honest. And of course, it's even worse because it's her own father that was doing these things to it. So initially he claimed responsibility. Then he said, no, it was Baynash, the stepmother. She's 10 years younger than him. When she was young, she had to go into a care home because she supposedly suffered from honour violence from her family. And, her defence has made a big thing of the fact that Irfan's a lot older than her. He chose her because she was vulnerable. He's had previous girlfriends who he's basically kicked the shit out of. They've testified. This is Sarah's mother, Olga, who's Polish. She unfortunately did not get custody of Sarah for whatever reason, and eventually sort of lost touch and wasn't, because she has a son as well who's with Irfan as well, Sarah's full biological brother, who is now in Pakistan with the other children. So it's very, everybody's responsible in my view. The social services did not pick up. Nobody, even the neighbours and the teachers, although they reported things, I don't think they made enough fuss about it. And this was Sarah in the last period of her life, dressed in a hijab to cover up bruises, etc., which she'd never worn before. Nobody else in the family, none of the other girls in the family wore a hijab, but Sarah was wearing one. And it's thought to be because she was covering up her bruises. They were covering up her bruises. So we've heard some very upsetting things in this trial. And we've heard how Sarah thought, left notes to apologise for being naughty and thanking her dad for looking after her at the weekend. And, saying our family spreads love all over the place, and she was totally brainwashed, this poor girl. um with she was treated terribly, but she seemed to think her dad was fantastic, or maybe she just felt she had to say that. So I think a lot of the time abused children don't realize that what's actually going on. So yeah, very sad story. Now it's coming. You'll be glad to hear, because although it's been important to follow this trial, because we want to see justice for Sarah, and Sarah doesn't have a voice now, so somebody, and it seems like her family didn't care about her that much. So it's important that somebody cares about what happened to Sarah, and somebody cares about what happens to the people that did it. So, of course, now Urfan has accepted responsibility, though he is saying he did not kill her. So he's accepting responsibility for beating Sarah with a cricket bat, beating her with a metal pole, tying her up, this, that, and the other. But he's not accepting responsibility for killing her, and he's not accepting responsibility for the bite marks she had on her. And to be fair, he did voluntarily give up a dental impression, as did Faisal. And the only person who would not give a dental impression was Baynash. So it seems quite likely that it was the stepmother who made the bites on Sarah. So, as I've listened to this trial, I've come to think they are all as guilty as each other. Even Faisal, because he knew what was going on. He went out and jet washed Sarah's body. I mean, it's disgusting. He deserves a strong sentence as well. So it's coming to an end, you'll be glad to hear, because, it's not been pleasant to sort of hear about it. It's not been pleasant for me to talk about it. But as I say, I still think it's important. So the prosecution has summed up, the defence have summed up. That's what we're going to look at today. And then the trial will continue, and hopefully it won't be long before a verdict comes through. So let me just say hello to everybody. Hi, Angel, my Angel Alfie. Hi, Darren. Hi, Quizzical. Hi, Kelly. Hi, Laurie. Yeah. Oh, Laurie, be careful if you have to go out. Be careful. Yeah. Yes. Pakistan, it's a sort of funny old country, really, because, there's a lot of strong women have come out of Pakistan. Leaders, like political leaders. I think most of them have been assassinated, having said that. But, it's a funny old place, because quite often in that sort of community, that culture, there is a very strong matriarchal role all the same. I suppose it's maybe as long as you stick to the role you're supposed to. I don't know. I don't know, because I don't know enough about it, and about, what it's actually like to live there. But there's no doubt in my mind that they took the other children to Pakistan so they couldn't be interviewed as either witnesses, or probably they've experienced abuse as well. Maybe not quite the same extent as Sarah, but definitely I doubt very much that they haven't received any abuse. So, if it goes like 6 months, and then maybe they'll come back then, but of course any injuries or whatever will have cleared up by then. So I think is to do with them not being witnesses, and the fact that they've probably suffered abuse as well, I think. Anyway, so we're going to see what happened over the last couple of days, towards the end of the week, what happened. And, I think it's coming to something when your own lawyer, your own defence lawyer, Urfan's defence lawyer, has referred to him as a scumbag and a psychopath. That's his defence lawyer. So what's his defence? I think the defence lawyer is just trying to say, yes, he did beat her, and he did do this and he did do that, but he didn't kill her on that particular day. This is the defence. It's the most ludicrous defence you've ever heard. Why bother? Why not just plead guilty? I don't understand this at all. So it seems like the defence, the only defence, if you like, is, oh yeah, he did all these things. He is a scumbag. He's going to burn in hell. But he did, on that particular day, he didn't kill her. That seems to be the defence argument. So on Friday, Naeem Mian, the barrister for Urfan Sharif, concluded his closing statement, and Caroline Carberry-Casey, who's the barrister for Baynash Batul, added her closing statement. So I think we've got one more closing. They've all got separate solicitors, separate barristers. So we haven't heard Faisal's closing arguments yet from his lawyer. But Mr. Mian began by returning to the fact that Urfan Sharif stated he had hit Sarah twice to the abdomen with the pole on the Tuesday that she died. But he disputed the fact that this would have been a significant contributing factor to Sarah's death. So this is the pole. This is the pole that was used to beat Sarah, to hit her twice. On that day that she died, he hit her twice in the abdomen with this pole. How has he even got the cheek to plead not guilty? Just beyond me. Anyway. In the video of Sarah dancing from August the 6th, 2 days before she is believed to have died, Sharif's barrister said Sarah was living with the injuries, not dying from the injuries that she was known to have then. This is just the worst defence ever. He then reminded the jury of the turmoil, guilt and remorse that Sharif would have felt and the number of days he spent in the witness box. Is he really trying to make us feel sorry for him? He stated that this would all have taken his toll on Urfan. I mean, my heart is just bleeding for Urfan. I don't know about you. And asked the jury to consider the credibility and reliability of all what he said as a result. So now he's trying to say that all this turmoil, guilt and remorse is what made him say these things. Dear me. But don't forget, he also tried to blame one of the other children as well. He blamed Sarah's older brother. He emphasised that Sharif hadn't meant to cause Sarah serious harm and referred to the injuries he denied causing, including the burns, the bite marks and the hooding. And he said, let's face it, we all know who those bite marks are from. I belong to. I do think that the bite marks are definitely from Baynash. She's equally as guilty. They're all as guilty as each other. Mr. Mian went on to say that Batul was somebody capable of creating a lie and sustaining it over years. Referring to the twins she claimed to have had in a previous relationship that later transpired to not exist. Oh my God. Oh my God. So she claimed to have twins from a previous relationship, but it turned out they didn't exist. Crazy. I mean, she is crazy, definitely. They're all crazy, but not in a way that, they should get away with pleading insanity or whatever. Crazy, and they're batshit crazy, but they knew exactly what they were doing. The defence counsel said that the only person who could say what happened to Sarah on the Saturday, Sunday, Monday and Tuesday leading up to her death was Batul and pointed to her in the box. He said to the jury, whatever you may think of him, meaning Urfan, and you may think he's a scumbag. Gosh. When your own defence lawyer calls you a scumbag, that says a lot, doesn't it? At least he came over there to the witness box and opened himself up. he admitted that the confession had come as a total surprise to him, and that it clearly been a surprise to the jury too. So yeah, because Urfan started off saying no, it was Baynash that was a Baynash Batul that was the psychopath, not him. And then suddenly he changed and accepted responsibility for everything except the bites. Now, from what he's saying, it was a surprise to him. The defense lawyer, I don't know if it was or not, but anyway, that's what he says. The only mitigating, and I tell you, it's a pathetic one. To me, the only thing that could give Irfan any, I mean, I don't mean to find him not guilty, but just maybe, I mean, what's his sentence going to be? But at least he did phone the police, and the police went and recovered Sarah's body. They did not try and dispose of Sarah's body, say that she'd gone off to live in Pakistan. They could have done that. And maybe they didn't think of that, I don't know. But, so that's the only little chink of decency I can see in this guy, is that he did at least phone the police and ask them to come and, give Sarah the dignity of not just being left there for days, deceased, or, doing anything to dispose of her remains, etc. That's it. And that's not even a good thing, really, because he still killed her. They all killed her. In my view, they all killed her by total negligence. Even, Faisal, who maybe he didn't strike a blow to Sarah, we don't know. Maybe he did. But if he's thought to have jet washed her after her death, so he's completely complicit in my eyes. Mr. Meehan said that Sharif will never forgive himself. He will be in those circles of hell for eternity. He will not get forgiveness from us. Nobody can grant him that, and asked the jury whether they thought the emotion he displayed was some kind of artificial creation. He concluded he is undoubtedly guilty of something, undoubtedly, but the question for you, members of the jury, is of what? All of it. He's guilty of all of it. But he was upset, and I think he was genuinely upset, but not for Sarah. He's upset because Sarah had the temerity to go and die, and now he knows he's in big dog doo-doo because she died. That's why he's upset. He's not upset about Sarah, because if he really cared about Sarah, he wouldn't have done all the things he'd done to her. How do you do that? How do you pick up a cricket bat and hit your child with it? How, just, it's not a smack, is it? It's not losing your temper in a moment, maybe smacking the back of the legs or whatever. It's like picking up a cricket bat. Anyway, so also Baynash Batul's defence counsel summed up, and defending Batul, Miss Carberry, again, I don't know how she could defend her really, but she began her closing speech by saying that Sharif had tried to silence Sarah's spirit and boldness with his actions. I definitely think, this is about the fact that Sarah was Olga's daughter. Probably, she had maybe in the beginning, she did have a bit of spirit. I doubt very much if she had much spirit by the end of it, personally. She said that Sharif had been a very comfortable liar in the witness box over many days, and suggested the jury may even have been taken in by his performance. I mean, he's definitely a liar. I don't even know if I believe him now. Because you can't believe anything this man says. He lies. Only he knows the truth. And he's got to live with it. He certainly has got to live with it, and he's got to die with it as well. He's got to face it in the next world. She reminded them that he had then desperately, implausibly backtracked after his confession. Miss Carberry said that when Sharif had described Batul as a psycho, it had all been an act, and that the dictionary definition... Hey, stop. The dictionary definition of a psychopath was a person having an egocentric personality, thinking only of oneself, with an absence of empathy and often criminal tendencies. Just it is that, I know we've talked about it a few times now, but the what's the word? The outrage, the horror, it doesn't lessen, does it? She suggested to the jury that Sharif had actually been describing himself and he was the only psychopath in the court. No, I think they're all psychopaths. All of them. So none of them cared about Sarah. Describing Sharif as a serial abuser of vulnerable women, Miss Carberry said police and social services records had showed he had also abused children in his care over many years. So how did he get custody of Sarah and her brother? This just makes me so angry. So he'd abused children in his care over many years, but he still got custody. The social services are definitely implicit in this. Miss Carberry told the jury they had been placed behind the doors of a family home where fear and violence reigned and where Urfan Sharif reigned. She accepted they hadn't heard from Batul, because don't forget Batul and Faisal, they're not giving any evidence. To me, that's suspicious as well. Why they're not speaking up on their own behalf? I mean, I'd want to, wouldn't you? If you knew you hadn't done anything, you'd want to give your evidence, have your say. They didn't want to. That says a lot to me, to be honest. She pointed out that Faisal Malik hadn't given evidence either, and he was also in the house of the day of Sarah's death. She told the jury not to jump to the conclusion that Batul's silence proved the case against her. Miss Carberry said that the jury had heard Batul's voice and seen her life unfold through the text to her sisters, and they were aware of her background through the agreed facts. Miss Carberry said that Batul was vulnerable and isolated from her family with a history of depression and self-harm. How was this girl ever placed with these people? How? When she met Sharif, who was 13 years her senior, she said that Sharif was already a serial abuser with a controlling personality and that Batul was an easy victim. Miss Carberry said that Batul had apparently told a nurse while she was pregnant that she didn't want Sharif in her life and suggested she stayed because she had no one else. Well, she had 3 children with him. 3. So maybe after the first one, when she realised she didn't want to be with him, but after another 2, why did she have another 2 children? And, there are ways of escaping and I know that it's difficult when someone's in these situations, but she said she had no one else, but she was in contact with her sisters. She had a big family. She said that the messages to her sisters, but remember, she's saying she hasn't got anybody else, but she sent all these messages to her sisters. These revealed how bleak their marriage was, and that it's a myth that it's easy to leave an abusive relationship. Miss Carberry said that Batul was isolated without support. She was an outcast from her family. Well, she was in contact with her sisters, though. Her sisters discouraged her from leaving with a stay and pray attitude. She added that Batul would regret not having left for the rest of her life. And she said of Sharif, for reasons we will never know, he loathed his daughter and he loathed his wife. It's about Olga. He hated Olga for leaving him and he took it out on Sarah. That's what I think. So the trial continues on Monday, November the 25th, when Faisal Malik's counsel will give his closing speech. Now, let's just go through what happened on Thursday. Some other facts that were given about Batul is she was convicted for theft and fraud. She stole gold jewellery from someone she was staying with, and she took out a mobile phone contract in someone else's name, and she received a conditional discharge. So she's just as bad as him. Just as bad as him, in my opinion. So the prosecution, I think I've been through the prosecution, hadn't I? I think so, yeah. But let's just read his closing speech. He said that the truth had slowly and surely begun to emerge, despite the fact that Sarah's stepmother and uncle, Baynash and Faisal, had said absolutely nothing, and her father, Irfan Sharif, had lied through his teeth. The barrister told the jury that Sarah had been brutally mistreated, abused, and subjected to violent assaults for many years, and during the last 8 months of her life, this level of violence grew to the point that it cost her her life. Let me go back. He said that Sharif had admitted some of the violence that Sarah suffered, but that it was inconceivable that one or two alone could have carried out the campaign of abuse that she went through without the complicity, participation, assistance, and encouragement of the others. So the prosecutor, he wants them all to be found guilty, and so do I now as well. Mr. Jones pointed out that none of the defendants had ever reported the suffering, abuse, and injuries that Sarah endured, and had in fact taken positive steps to cover it up, adding that the idea that Sarah suffered the abuse and injuries without the knowledge of these adults was hopelessly unrealistic. Let's have a look. This is the letter, the note that Irfan left by Sarah's body. Love you, Sarah. Oh my God. Love you, Sarah. Can we read this? I killed my daughter by beating. I am running away because I am scared, but I promise that I will hand over myself and something. He went, I really think now they went to Pakistan just to get the other children there, didn't they? I think he was going to face the music probably eventually, but they went to Pakistan to see if, they could get away with it. And when it all got difficult in Pakistan, he decided to come back, but of course, not with the children. I swear to God, as if you would believe him swearing to God, that my intention was not to kill her. No, it was. That's probably true. I don't think he did intend to kill her, but he still intended to beat her. He'd been beating her for ages. My daughter is something. You're busy. Her. Oh, can you bury her like a Muslim? Maybe. So he's gone off, left his dead daughter in the bunk bed in her little pajamas after she's been jet washed because she was sat in her own filth because they made her wear nappies. And he's saying, can you bury her like a Muslim? I will be back before you finish the post-mortem. Gosh, just incredible. Incredible. So Mr. Jones, the prosecutor, said he'd admitted beating Sarah with a cricket bat and a pole severely and repeatedly. He admitted causing her serious harm and therefore admitting to murder. But the barrister reminded the jury that when Sharif, after speaking to his counsel, didn't change his plea to guilty, the trial continued. So he still did not, even when halfway through the trial, he took all responsibility. He didn't change his plea to guilty even then. So either he regretted his admission and then tried to water it down, or it was an attempt to help Batul and Malik. The prosecutor suggested he had started off with plan A, firstly trying to blame Psycho Batul, When that didn't work, he moved to Plan B by accepting full responsibility in a bid to save Batul and Malik. Finally, he moved to Plan C, in which he admitted to beating her repeatedly, but that he didn't cause her death. And he pointed out that Sharif had also denied beating Sarah in the days prior to her death, which is when it suggested she suffered the traumatic brain injury, and suggested that this was an attempt to suggest that either Batul or Malik had delivered the final blow. No, I just think they're all guilty. Are they trying to muddy the waters? Was he trying to muddy the waters so that maybe none of them would get found guilty, because it couldn't be certain that one of them in particular had done it? But I don't think it's going to work. Well, I hope not anyway. He reminded the jury of the unchallenged evidence provided by Dr. Carey that said that Sarah's death was the result of complications arising from multiple injuries and neglect, and was not a result of one single injury, but the accumulative impact of all the various injuries, and that Batul and Malik had played their part in these, either by assaulting her themselves or by encouraging or assisting Sharif. He said there was nothing in the text messages sent to Batul's sisters which demonstrated any intention to stop Sharif's violence towards Sarah or asking them to report Sharif. And the barrister reminded the jury, because this barrister, the prosecution barrister, will want a guilty verdict for all of them. He reminded the jury of the evidence given by the neighbours. They said they heard Batul screaming at Sarah. They also described hearing loud smacking noises and rattling as if someone was locked in a room. He spoke about the bite marks, pointing out that Batul had refused to provide her dental impressions. That just says it all to me. And while these injuries were not fatal, they were enough to show the wider role that Batul played. So, the prosecutor will want a guilty verdict for all of them, and I think they all deserve a guilty verdict. He said that Batul and Sharif's shared approach to parenting was a culture of violence towards Sarah, which had become normalised, and that Sarah suffered again and again at the hands of the adults who should have been caring for her, but instead failed her terribly. He suggested that Batul would call Sharif home to discipline Sarah, giving him the green light and setting Sarah up for a beating. And this was enough to find Batul guilty of murder. And remember, Sarah described her as the Princess Bainash. How beautiful she was, and how young and attractive, and what a fabulous mother she was. Because she was brainwashed, this little girl. Brainwashed. Although there was no direct evidence Malik had assaulted Sarah, Mr. Emlyn Jones said he would have been in the house while she was being beaten to death. I mean, how, let's face it, you might put yourself in his position. You're sat in your sister's house, your brother's house, and someone's, beating one of their children with a cricket bat or with a metal rod, putting them in nappies. Of course, you'd go to the police. You might not in that moment because you'd be scared, but as soon as you were out of that house and you were on your own, first straight down the police station. Nobody, who would just turn a blind eye to that? What kind of a person? Anyway, Mr. Jones reminded the jury of the other evidence, including the homemade hoods made using packing tape and carrier bags, which were found discarded in the bin, and evidence that Sarah had been restrained. He said that restraining and hooding Sarah was part and parcel of the overall violence that caused her death, and Malik and Batul must have played a part by encouraging or assisting in that, or at the very least being complicit and doing nothing to stop it. The barrister spoke about the burns Sarah suffered and reminded them that Sharif had denied causing these and that these were someone else's method of cruelty. I think she did the burns as well with the iron. He said that a video of Sarah allegedly taken on August the 6th demonstrated Sarah's extraordinary resilience, which he said ran out. Yeah, that little girl, she just gave up, didn't she? And he spoke about the day Sarah died. No one called for help. The decision of the whole family to leave the UK and go to Pakistan, and taking their mobile phones and doorbell video with them, not telling the police where they were in the call made by Sharif. And they'd only come home because their family members were being harassed by Pakistani authorities. Yeah, I completely agree with that. Look, this is the family leaving Heathrow. They came back because the family had had enough of them. You know, the Pakistani, there's no, exchange agreement between Pakistan and Britain. But what the Pakistani police did do, they made their families' lives a misery, kept raiding their houses looking for them, and made it impossible for their family. And so the family have turned around to them in the end and said, you know, you've got to go back. They didn't go back because he wanted to face the music. I think he went back because he couldn't stay any longer in Pakistan. And probably his family said, oh, well, we'll keep the children, but we don't want you. Okay, whereas, his defence counsel, Mr. Meehan, he told the jury to put aside their feelings of anger and frustration and hatred towards Sharif. Well, they're not going to be able to do that, are they? And he asked them to consider who was responsible for the traumatic brain injury. He pointed out that Sharif had taken full responsibility but wouldn't admit to the burns or the bites, and he didn't know about the hooding. Oh, come on. He accepted he'd beaten Sarah with a cricket bat, but said these wounds were not fatal and they were healing. He said that Batul had not provided any explanation as to her involvement, which is true. And although Urfan had these records in the social services, none of these incidents, although he was arrested on 3 occasions, none of them resulted in any charges. So, he'd admitted to assaulting Sarah, but he said he'd never hit her on the head or the face. He couldn't have inflicted the brain injury. He said that Batul was controlling and coercive, blah-de-blah-de-blah-de-blah. Anyway, they're all as bad as each other, aren't they? Definitely. So that's where we are. The trial continues. So on Monday, it will be Faisal's turn, or he's not speaking. Faisal's and Bainash, they decided not to give evidence, didn't they? Let's just put their evil faces up again. So so Urfan is the only one who stood up and actually spoken. The other 2 have refused to get up and speak. They're obviously just hoping he'll get found guilty for everything, they'll get away with it. But at the end of the day, they're all guilty, aren't they? All of them equally, really, because you know what, you are equally guilty. If you watch somebody, hitting someone with a cricket bat, child or otherwise, and you just stand there and watch it, you don't do anything to stop it, and you don't report it afterwards, you are equally guilty. So they're all guilty. I hope that's the verdict that's come to. But anyway, so Monday they will be giving Faisal's solicitor will be giving his closing argument, or her. I'm not sure if it's a man or a woman. I'm going to light a little candle. I found a candle. I'm going to light a candle for for Sarah. I hope she's in a better place, to be honest, because how long would that have gone on for? Didn't seem like anyone was realizing what was going on. Nobody was doing anything about it. How long would she have had to put up with it? So a little candle there for Sarah. How long would she have had to put up with it? Why was nothing done? Where was her mum even? Where were the social services? Where was the school? Where were just she was let down by so many people. Sarah, little Sarah. Let's have a closer look at her. Her little angelic face, just awful, awful, awful what happened. But anyway, I think Urfan's definitely going to get found guilty, but to be honest, I'm hoping that the other two are found guilty as well. So I think we might get a verdict quite early next week, because if Monday Faisal's solicitor going to do his closing arguments, surely it can't be long after that to get the verdict, unless there's some dispute within the jury, when they're deliberating. Let's just check again what the charges are. So they've all got exactly the same charges, I believe. They're charged with various things. So they've been charged with murder and causing or allowing the death of Sarah. So there may be maybe there'll be a fair amount of discussion about which one to find them guilty of, especially Faisal and Bainash. But yeah. So we'll see. I think we'll find out next week, definitely early next week, what the verdicts will be. Let's hope so. Hi, David. Have you got a note? Oh, Nightbot's here. Hi, Nightbot. Anyway, I'm just finishing now, David. It was just an update. But as I say, I'll just repeat when your own lawyer calls you a scumbag and a psychopath and says you're probably going to go to hell or whatever, it doesn't say much, does it? Hi, Wesley. Couple of latecomers. So, yeah, Monday's Faisal's, his lawyer's going to be giving the closing arguments, and then we'll see after that how long it takes for then the jury will deliberate. I think by Wednesday we'll probably have, they'll probably be having, I was going to say having porridge then, because I just saw David's comment. By Wednesday, I think we'll have a verdict. I can't see why not, can you? Unless as I say, unless the jury are conflicted on sort of Faisal and Bainash. But Irfan's definitely getting found guilty of murder, I think. I don't know. Let's hope so, Wesley. 3 life sentences. Let's definitely hope so. Okay, I'm going to go and have lunch. Now, I hope you're all going to have a great weekend. As I say, if you're in the UK or, make sure you stay safe from Storm Bert. Let me just have a little look at the news before I go off. Yeah, apparently, you've got snow accumulating thick and fast. Let's have a look. So this picture, let me just show this. This is in Stirling in Scotland. I know quite a few of my chatters are in Scotland. Yeah, so be careful if you go out anywhere. Be careful. Try not to go out if you can avoid it, of course. Yeah, stay safe, everybody, and I will see you really soon in the next video. Prayers for Sarah and prayers that they all get found guilty. Take care. See you really soon in the next video. And until then, may your God go with you. Bye.